Hey guys, it's Darwin here with my weekly Q&A to answer more of your questions. If you want to ask a question for next week's Q&A, you can either leave it in the comment box below or send me a video question over to darwinonthetrail@yahoo.com, and then next week I'll answer as many as I possibly can. All right, so as promised in last week, I have a special guest here on the Q&A, Mr. Neemor. How are we doing, sir?
I'm doing good.
I asked last week for you guys to ask some general questions for both of us to answer about long distance hiking, so we're gonna try our best and answer as many as we possibly can. Have you ever considered barefoot or minimalist shoes for a hike? Not necessarily 5 fingers, more like the Merrell trail gloves. So as some of you guys might know, the shoe that I prefer is the Ultra Lone Peak 3.5. I've been hiking that now for about a year, and I used to use more of a traditional hiking shoe like the Merrell Moab, but this has become my favorite hiking shoe, and it is definitely minimalist. It is 0 drop, so not a crazy amount of cushion. What about you?
I started out with my first pair of minimalist shoes was the Superior by Ultra, and I used that on the Pacific Crest Trail, and then after that I switched over to some Merrells. I used the Trail Glove 3s and the Trail Glove 4s, and then I also bought their Vapor Glove, which is a very thin down version of the Trail Glove, and there's almost no sole there. It's basically walking on a very thin piece of rubber. And then later this year I started using some shoes by Zero, the Prio, and then also these that I used at the Grand Canyon, the high top version, which are pretty minimal. These are the Daylight Hiker. As far as barefoot shoes go, I think if your feet are strong and you're ready for it, I mean, I like them a lot personally. I know people can start to have problems when they switch to a barefoot shoe, specifically with their Achilles. Is that mostly, I guess?
Yeah, I think I've had the same problem. I had a pair of the 5 fingers actually for quite some time, and I tried to do a couple hikes in them, and yeah, it wasn't happening. I tried really hard, but yeah, I think Achilles problems is what a lot of people have a problem with, just not strong enough to be able to handle something like a barefoot, especially whenever you have a pack on your back or that extra weight. It just doesn't always work for everybody.
Yo, Darwin, what up? E from Jersey, coming to you live from Northern Green State Forest in New Jersey. Just want to know, you ever got burnt cooking with your stove? I just used my MSR Pocket Rocket, and folding up the stove could have burnt my fingers. Do you recommend bringing any burn cream or anything for burns? Have you ever been burnt on the trail? Let me know. E from Jersey, much love the channels, love the videos, keep them coming. Holla back.
So I personally don't carry any type of burn cream or anything. Usually I just burn my fingers and then I scream obscenities really loud. But I try not to. After I get done cooking, I'll turn my stove off and just let it sit for a while. If I am gonna grab it, I'll usually grab my buff and grab the stove just to make sure that I'm not gonna burn my fingers. But no burn cream. Burn your hand on a stove ever?
I don't know if I've ever burned myself backpacking. The majority of the hiking I've done has been without a stove, and I rarely light fires, so that pretty much keeps me away from getting burned.
So yeah, no burn cream for either of us. Just be cautious. Don't burn yourself, man.
I also got a few questions from some of my patrons, and the first one is for Darwin. How are you going to be filming your upcoming PCT hike? Also, how often will you be putting out videos?
So I'll be filming it with the camera, and I will be filming as much as I can on the trail, kind of vlog style, probably pretty similar to what you did. And then I'll be uploading it once a week. I'm gonna try to get like a month out on the trail before I actually start putting out videos, so I can have enough time. And then I'll just be doing a weekly video from the trail in that kind of vlog style, hiking past the camera style, you know, the typical hike video. So.
Do you know what camera you're taking already?
Yeah, I'll be taking the Canon G7X Mark II. As of now, that is my camera of choice and what I've been using on the trail.
When a few more established thru hikers head out on the trail together, do they share supplies and shelters, or do they hike their own hike, but alongside each other? Yeah,
I think that mainly it's hike your own hike. I've never shared gear with anybody aside from my wife, Snuggles. We have obviously hiked the AT together, the entire AT, and we did share some gear. We shared a tent, and then we also shared a cook system. Aside from that, everything else was different. And yeah, we just kind of hike our own hike. Even sharing stuff, we still hike our own hike, and There were times of the day that I wouldn't see her all the way through the day, and we would meet up at the end at a shelter or a campsite. So, what about you?
I think with especially with longer stuff, it can be a problem if one person either decides to get off the trail or they're injured and you're sharing gear. We were talking about this earlier, and them getting off the trail can totally ruin your hike or blow your budget or something like that. So it's definitely has its pluses to not sharing gear, but I mean, if you share gear, you can both have a lighter system. I met a family on the AT in 2015 who they all had pretty light packs because they all cooked together, and they all had, like, they had a couple shelters, but they were all able to share all the weight. So
yeah, I mean, when Snuggles and I hiked the AT, we had the same tent and we split it up to split the weight up. But I think if we were going to do it again, we've talked about it, we would have our own separate tents and our own separate cook system, just because there was a lot of times where I might get to a campsite before she gets there, and then if I'm hungry, I'm kind of waiting on her other half to be able to like fire up my stove and stuff, because like she would carry the fuel and I would carry the stove. So yeah, I totally agree with that.
Hey Darwin, my name is Tommy. I've been watching your channel for a little bit, trying to get into backpacking. I really like your ultralight gear on a budget videos. I really like those. I was wondering, do you carry mag bars for a backup fire starter or no?
No, I've never carried a mag bar. I've seen them, but a little too heavy. I just carry a Bic lighter, good and simple.
I had one like that when I was in Scouts that had a little antler horn that I got for Christmas,
Nice.
but I've never actually used it to start a fire. But no, I've just carried, like, I've carried lighters before, or I just won't carry any fire starter. Depends on the trip.
Just curious what you cold soak your food in. I've read about hikers using peanut butter jars, etc. I would like to try it, but don't want to risk any leaking in my pack. So the jar that I am currently using as my cold soaking container is a Talenti gelato jar, which is really sweet because they're like only $8 and you get free ice cream with them. So they have a really nice seal, and to this point I've pretty much been able to put all the types of food that I want to cold soak in it. I haven't needed any more room than that, so it's, you know, about that big. It works. How about you?
I did cold soaking on the AT in 2015, and I used a peanut butter jar. I was really lazy about cleaning it though, and it got pretty gross, and then I got sick from it. So since then, what I've done is I'll just open the packaging that the food comes in and pour the water into that and let it sit. It works, but you can also like tip it over pretty easy. But yeah, that works for me. And then sometimes Ziplocs. I brought a Ziploc on our trip that we did this week, and worked well for me.
Yeah, and then there's some containers out there. Vargo makes a thing called the Bot that is a metal container, so if you want to cook with it, you can, but it does have a screw top seal lid, so it's good for cold soaking too.
Hey, how's it going, Darwin? My name is David. I'm from the LA area in Southern California. I have a question for you. I purchased one of these down jackets, mountain hardware down jackets, just like the one that you have. Just wondering, how do you pack this thing? Do you roll it up, or do you just stuff it in your backpack?
So I just stuff mine. I usually just jam it down in my pack into like any open areas to try to fill space and add maybe a little bit of cushion on my back. I've never rolled it up or folded it or anything. I stuff most of my gear. Stuffing's just better.
Yeah, I generally don't use any stuff sacks except for like a liner to keep everything dry, and then my food bag, because everything can smash down together and fit in your pack a lot easier.
And I think I've said it in the past that, you know, a lot of jackets and tents and rain flies have a DWR coating, so whenever you fold them or if you roll them, you can actually put little creases in the fabric and break down that DWR coating a lot faster. So by stuffing, you kind of eliminate that process at least a little bit, and it makes the garment last a lot longer.
What's your favorite meal on the trail?
My favorite meal still to the day, and something that I am not burnt out on at all, is instant mashed potatoes. Idahoan, because Betty Crocker are total crap and they're really nasty. So Idahoan, like loaded or 4 cheese mashed potatoes with like a tuna packet, that is definitely my favorite meal.
I would say probably chili ramen noodles right now. A lot of food in the past 3 years have eating trail food, I've got burnt out on almost all of it except ramen. A couple other things that I
Which is
really
amazing.
A couple other things that I really like to bring are tomato and basil wheat thins and a bag of carrots, which Darwin was pointing out that those aren't good for calories, but
Terrible for calories.
I don't really care.
Great for crunch.
But yeah, those are a few things that I've been bringing recently. Also, taco chips.
I was wondering about rain suits. I want to step away from a traditional rain suit and start using a backpack poncho. Wonder what your thoughts are about using those, and if anybody, if you've seen anybody wear them and how they done for you. Thanks.
Have you used a poncho?
Never.
I used a poncho for quite a bit on the Appalachian Trail this past year, and switching from a rain jacket, a few of the benefits are you always have a breeze going through. I guess that's a benefit and a downside. If you're on like some big mountains out west and there's a breeze, like it's not going to do anything to keep you dry. But if you're down in the trees, it does a great job, and it also stops you from sweating. Another cool thing is a lot of them can be set up as a shelter, depending on which kind you get,
Yeah.
but that can be used for a shelter for eating lunch under, or if you're really ultralight, just as your only shelter. Another downside of it is if the wind's blowing through, that keeps you from sweating, but it also doesn't act as a warmth layer. So the majority of the time that I use my rain jackets, it's not to keep the rain off, it's to keep warmth in. Like when I'm setting up camp or something, it's just another layer of warmth.
Yeah, I'm the same way, and it's a reason like why I don't wear like rain pants and stuff. It's just because I don't use it to really stay dry, because I don't think I've ever owned a rain jacket that's actually kept me dry. They always wet out. It doesn't matter what rain jacket it is, it will wet out eventually, especially if like you're hiking on the AT where it's just pouring rain all the time. But yeah, more is just like a warm layer to make sure that you're not getting super chilly. More of like a wind jacket, I think, is more what a rain jacket comes into play as. And as far as using a poncho, I have personally never used one. I've thought about it. I've looked at some of those poncho tarps. And yeah, they're super cool. I've just never personally used one. I'm a rain jacket guy.
Do you feel like you have to compete when hiking with another strong hiker?
I don't feel like I have to compete with another hiker. I come from a really competitive background, racing triathlon and cycling for so many years. So I think it's kind of ingrained in me regardless if I'm on a trail and like I see somebody out ahead of me, like my brain instantly kicks on and tells me I need to pass that person. So I do have that, but I don't feel like I have to compete with another hiker. Because I think whenever you're out on the trail, like everyone's out there to do the same thing, especially like if you're talking about a long distance trail, where you're going from point A to point B, like everyone has the same start goal and the same end goal. So yeah, I don't feel like I compete. I think whenever we just did this trip in the Grand Canyon, I never felt there was a time. We kind of flip-flop back and forth on the trail all day, and I never felt like I needed to catch up with you or anything, or
Well,
I needed to compete with
he
you.
also did race up to the top first, so take it as it is.
It's because I really wanted to finish in the light. Never finished on a Grand Canyon rim in the light. It's always been dark, but yeah. No, I don't feel like I ever have to compete.
Yeah, I've never felt that competitive like push when I'm hiking, unless, well, if it's stormy and you're on the AT and you know there's a shelter coming up and you know there's people around you, it becomes a competition to see who gets that shelter
Yeah,
spot.
that for sure.
Yeah,
I've definitely run to a shelter to make sure I could get a spot, for sure.
that's pretty much the only thing.
My question is, which step on the trail is your favorite, i.e. the first or last? And will you compare and contrast the emotions experienced for each?
Well, what comes to mind first with that question is the first step. I'm usually really excited to get out there because I've been planning and just excited to go, like where we went to the Grand Canyon.
Yeah.
I was excited to see the canyon, excited to get down to the Colorado and just see something I'd never seen before. But then also at the end, we were both talking about food, and we were really excited getting to the top at the end. So I don't know if either one is better.
Yeah, I think really they're both. Like I look forward to both. I look forward to the beginning and the end. And sometimes the end, especially whenever you're doing like a long section or if it's a through hike, the end can be kind of that bittersweet thing too, to where you're excited to be done because you're excited to move on to something different, but you also know that like you're gonna go away from this thing that you've gotten so comfortable doing. and this amazing experience that you've had is about to be over. So there's definitely that for sure. And then obviously there's the thing that always sets in after a hike, like where you wish you were back out there. So I think it's kind of both ways all the time.
And it can also depend on how the trip ends, like how your last step is. So in 2015, finishing my first thru hike, those last few steps were amazing. And I was super excited and almost relieved that I was done. And then this past year, I wasn't able to finish the long trail. I had set out to do a thru hike, and due to other plans, and I just wasn't able to finish in the time that I had, so I had to get off like 60 miles short. And so I was kind of sad at the same time, but it was different.
Yeah, I experienced the same thing last year on the Arizona trail whenever I went out to bike pack it. Like, I was really bummed that I hurt my knee and I had to get off the trail, but I was really content with it for some reason. Like, I think I had, for like the 250, 300 miles I was on the trail, I think I got all that I needed from the trail to like have the experience that I was looking for. So yeah, always all over the place. Hiking is like an emotional roller coaster, nonstop. All right guys, so if you have any question for next week's Q&A, you can either leave it in the comment box below or send me a video question over to darwinonthetrail@yahoo.com, and then next week I'll answer as many as I possibly can. Big thanks to Neemor for being here, and thanks for doing that trip with me. If you guys haven't had a chance to check out his channel yet, I'll leave a link in the description box below and at the end of this video. His videos are awesome. Check them out. If you haven't had a chance yet, go over and check out me and him over on Instagram. If you found any value in this video, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and as always guys, thanks for watching.